Okay, let's talk McCartney. Something near and dear to my heart, or someone, I should say. Anyway, man, I'm going to be talking about the album Tug of War, which was the first McCartney release after the Wings period. And if you grew up in the 70s, I'm Gen X, I was born in the 60s. It hit the sweet spot for me. So I was young. I mean, he's a genius anyway. There's no doubt about that. And if you're not into the Beatles, you should be. That's for damn sure. Anyway, he does have a new record coming out here in about 2 months. I mean, 2 weeks, I believe. Uh, so anyway, I'm excited. So anyway, I'm just going to be talking about McCartney in general, but I'm going to sort of start with this first really solo album. Um, Other than the three McCartney albums, and yes, I know about all the different incarnations and everything he's done. Anyway, the Twin Freaks, etc., and things he's done other names. Anyway, we'll get to that one day. But I love McCartney. He's just absolutely one of my favorites, one of the most genius songwriters that's out there. And yes, he borrows. Someone once told me I wrote a song one time that anyway, and then I went to that person and played the song and told him the song that it was ripped off from. And his advice to me, he congratulated me and said, "A good writer borrows, but a great writer steals." So I consider McCartney a good writer. He definitely just steals from everyone and does it in his own way. I'll give you just a funny example of one thing the Beatles did, for instance. It's alleged, and I'm not sure how accurate it is because it doesn't seem to vibe backwards the way. But Because, for instance, by John Lennon was loosely based on, supposedly the story is that Yoko was sitting at the piano playing Moonlight Sonata and then he said, play it backwards, right? So she played it backwards. And those changes apparently are the changes for that song. And I do think I don't know, I'll have to check up exactly how far that goes. But definitely that's what they say. They say a lot of shit, though, that's not true at all. But that's kind of what makes them cool because there's sort of the um, esoteric Beatles and then there's the exoteric. And there's always an outer story, but an inner story that goes with it. But let's check this out, man. I'm so excited. I used to love records, sit in my room, play chess, pull out, check it out, man. Let me get the glare off. Paul McCartney, Tug of War. Yeah, baby. Man. Anyway, you just don't get this kind of stuff. The Beatles, actually, Sergeant Pepper was the first album that had lyrics printed on the back of the record. So, anyway, yeah, you got man, Tug of War, first right off the bat, you know, it's a tug of war, dun, 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 dun. Nice and simple. McCartney comes in, just him and the guitar. Next thing you know, it turns out the strings come in and you hear Linda's voice. She does some great background vocals, who really doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion. Also, she's overlooked, but it's kind of amazing how good she was. Um, and she's even touted her imperfections, and that is something that's true. Is that all of this music had a human quality to it. You didn't have, and McCartney is a hell of a singer, man. He's just one of the best. And this album proves it. It was produced by George Martin. So I believe this, and maybe give my regards to Broad Street, might have been produced by George Martin, but who, legendary producer of the Beatles. Uh, and the sound, the engineering, it's just an amazing, this is a nice piece of work. And of course, there's Take It Away. Take it away. Wanna hear you play till the lights go down. Anyway, uh, I don't know what I can say about it other than it's just a really, it's whimsical. It's McCartney at his best. He gets away with it though. That's the cool ass thing, man. He just like gets away with it. There's something about their stuff and his stuff that, like I said, there's sort of after a while, if you know, you know, there's a sort of esoteric understanding to a lot of this stuff, and not in a supernatural, deep kind of metaphysical way, but just in a songwriting way. A lot of times, lyrics will jump out at me years later to songs, and I'll see some clever little twist that McCartney does, and he's really good at that. But then we have Somebody Who Cares. Da, 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 da. Anyway, it just has this nice lilting quality, and there's one little part in there. How will we know your whereabouts? So how does it feel? Boom. Heads into this beautiful solo. I think it might be Paul himself. I think he does most of the stuff on this album, although I'm sure there's some session cats on here as well. But anyway, what's that you're doing? That's Stevie Wonder and Paul doing their thing in the studio. I think the Ebony and Ivory thing is going to be at the end of this album, and if you remember, that was a big hit for them. And once again, he seems to want to put out his most commercial, schmaltzy kind of self to the public, and he seems. I don't know if he's getting pressure from the record companies or not, because I think they need him more than he needs them, especially at that time. And well, really any time. But man, anyway, I lost my train of thought. But I'm not going to do any edits. I'm just going to roll on through this thing. So yeah, that's Stevie and Paul. They're jamming in the studio, and it's not the greatest song in the world, to be honest with you, in my opinion. It's kind of a little, but it's unique though. I'll give it that much. It is unique. And then of course we have Here Today. Here Today. I mean, what can I say? That's a beautiful song. At the time, it was Paul's tribute to John Lennon. This album came out shortly after John's assassination, and um, I kind of the song carries weight the longer it stays around, and I guess I kind of there was a sentiment Paul seemed to be. I think he was coked up at the time, to be honest with you. And when John died, and there's this famous clip of him, he walks out, says, "Yeah, man, it's a drag, whatever." And he looks thin, and he's always doing this little number. Paul, you know what was going on. But I love Paul McCartney, though. He cleaned up his act, at least on coke, so you can tell because he gained weight again and all that good stuff. But yeah, here today, the changes, and there's a clip also on YouTube you can go check out. Um, where he's on Saturday Night Live, I think, or maybe it's Tonight Show or one of the late shows, and he does that, and it's one of the most beautiful things you've ever heard. And I, unfortunately, in my life, I had tickets to see Paul when I was living in Nashville, and I got one of my first paying gigs. Man, I had to go and take the gig. I thought I was doing. I should have. Truth be known, I think I should have seen Paul McCartney, but I gave my ticket to the best man at my wedding. His name is David. And anyway, yeah, he and my girlfriend went. What you gonna say about that? But I was really jealous. I mean, not jealous, jealous, but I wanted to see that concert so bad, so badly. Yeah, it was unbelievable. But okay, so anyway, side two. Ballroom dancing, seen it on TV. I got quite a lot from ballroom dancing, Big BD. Yeah, well, he's just like Big BD. It's just hilarious. And he gets away with it, but he does these voices too, character voices. He's famous for that, but they call him the man of a thousand voices. So anyway, the pound is sinking. Lyrics are about, the lira is rising, the end, this and that, and it's clever. It's great. The acoustic guitar is jamming. This is kind of just a verbal sort of overview and a cultural glimpse, I guess. I just remember getting this album and it being just Paul and back to that kind of sort of like Back to the Egg was with Wings. That was sort of an electric pop sound that was going on at the time that I thought was really, really cool. And anyway, yeah, it was just like happy music. I don't know, where did all the good times go, it seems. But if you're a McCartney fan, you'll know just what I'm talking about. He was always just about, let's bring on the good times. Let's just be happy. And Wanderlust, I think was the name of his ship, which there's some stuff on London Town about that. I think that's the poster. When you pull that out, he's on the boat, I guess, that they called Wanderlust. And apparently he may have escaped a bust on there. I don't know. That's Captain said there'll be a bust. This one's not for me. So who knows? Then we're gonna get it. That's Carl Perkins, and that's a jam. It's pretty good. Carl Perkins goes back to the 50s, and I think he's from Jackson, Tennessee, right? And yeah, he's good. And Paul has a special place in his heart, I think, for a lot of those guys. Elvis, um, all of them, Johnny Cash, Roy Orbison, uh, they were all on Sun Records. And anyway, that was the music that he grew up to. That was like what rebellious rock and roll was. And I don't know if people today can really appreciate how rebellious that seemed for the culture at that time. Same with the Beatles. Um, but they still played, they had that exterior of almost like the good boys. Then people who, like if you knew, you knew. And I mean, of course, they let their drug use or whatever you want to call it and hang out. And definitely were influential in a lot of people doing a lot of drugs. But that's, I guess, neither here nor there. You can't blame a whole generation on Paul McCartney and the Beatles. But they were like his influence is enormous, that's for sure. And then Be What You See. Be What You See. Uh, na, 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 na. So yeah, that's a dreamy little groovy, kind of trippy, like a little, ooh, it's like a little quick trip. But it's only maybe a minute and a half long, it seems like, maybe if not even that. But but it kind of rolls into Dress Me Up as a Robber, which is kind of still kind of had that 70s. This is probably 1980. It had that 70s almost disco, but not disco. So I don't know. It's a good song, but it's Dress Me Up as a Robber. Dun, dun, dun. It's got anyway. It's kind of a minor groove. And then the album kind of unfortunately finishes off with Ebony and Ivory. And while honestly, it's a well-written song, and the melody is strong, and the lyrics are definitely strong, but it still has that "We Are the World" sort of vibe that was going on about that time. And I don't know. I think he played a little bit too much into that schmaltz. Once again, that's sort of the thing with McCartney. He's just on one side, you almost have to wade through a little bit of fluff to get to the real gems, but trust me, I mean, they really are there. And but anyway, there's going to be a lot of hoopla going on about all of the Beatles when these movies. There's four biopics that have been planned, and I think they're in production. I don't know if any of them are actually finished, but it's the time is creeping up, and McCartney's getting older as a person. So his new release is out as well. There's going to be these four biopics. Apparently, there's four movies being made, one from each Beatles' point of view, and sounds pretty cool to me. I'll be going for sure. And that's a deep, deep, deep subject. And if you're into PID or the Paul is Dead thing, that's something you may want to check out. I'm going to get some of that going on my channel. Eventually there'll be playlists. But anyway, if you like Paul McCartney, you'll enjoy this video. And um, I'm sure we all are looking forward to that album coming out. So uh, anyway, enjoyed it. Bye.